electricity is very popular around.
Yeah, yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is showtime at Copacabana.
Eikä vaan, sit sä voit antaa kapulan mulle.
So, please take a seat and let's start the seminar. Dear audiences, I'm Katarina from Hot Helsinki team, and I want to welcome you all to the seminar Greener Production and Distribution Practices, How Far Should We Go? It's organized as part of the seminar program of the Hot Nordic Dance platform going on in Helsinki, and this seminar is being live streamed on the Hot YouTube channel. So it will be available later on as a recording on our website. And it's my pleasure to hand over to the moderator of today, Jarkko Lehmus.
Hello everybody. It's really nice to see you all here. I'm Jarkko Lehmus. I'm the acting director of Cirko Center for New Circus, and also my ugly and evil alter ego is the Dramaturge, Jarkko Lehmus. Today I'm kind of a bit of both. And my aim here is to keep these lovely people talking. We are going to riff off the idea of how far should we go. So we are going to deal with the dimensions of greener production practices and then look into the future, hopefully. And in the end of this discussion, there will be 15 minutes for your questions and for us to have a direct discussion for you guys as well. All right, let's get started. So let's start with the introductions. Could you please introduce yourselves? Who are you? Where are you from? What do you do? And the special question, what is the furthest? Oh, yeah, exactly. What is the furthest return trip you've made for work, and would you do it again?
Hi, I'm Bia Oliveira. I'm head of producing and touring at Sadler as well as London. So I work with Sadler as well as on productions and touring. The furthest I've been is Australia. I would do it again.
Which part of Australia?
I've been to a few places in Australia: Brisbane, Melbourne, Sydney, Perth.
So you're a repeat offender?
Yes. I haven't been to New Zealand though, and I did say no because I thought there isn't a basic need to go to New Zealand, a really important need to go to New Zealand, and that was terrible because I really wanted to go. But yes, so climate-wise, it was the right decision. Personally, it was wrong. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Vespa Laine, and I'm a member of Fern Orchestra, which is this art and science collective from Finland. I have an education as a lighting designer, but I tend to go my sense as a Renaissance person who does what she wants. And yes, the furthest place that we've traveled with orchestra is Germany. But then I've worked in Czech Republic as well, and all those trips I made by land. I would do it again, and I will.
My name is Johanna Nuutinen. I'm a choreographer and lead artist of Johanna Nuutinen plus Collaborators, dance company based here in Helsinki. I guess I'm here and I was invited because I create work for independent work for freelance field in Helsinki or Finland. And then also I work with bigger institutions such as National Ballet or bigger dance companies for commission works. I was gonna say I have traveled to Hong Kong, but then I remembered I did go to Australia, Perth. I was there for work for 6 weeks, a couple of times. And for that kind of amount of time, I would definitely do it again.
Hello. My name is Petteri Laukkonen. I work as the head of technical department at Tanssintalo, the dance house Helsinki that most of you probably have already visited today. My responsibilities are, well, technical systems, technical point of view on producing and programming, technical production, you could say, technical processes and production processes, resources, whether be it staff or equipment, the venues, anything with a plug on it, basically, or made of steel, or what is that? Maybe I should tell you that I have also a history as a sound designer and electrical engineer before that. But mostly at least this millennia, I've been doing what I do now, either at Tanssintalo for 2 years and before that, for example, at the Finnish National Opera, and also I've worked as an entrepreneur. For the first question, it's funnily enough, due to pandemic and maybe being quite busy opening dance house, in my present position, the furthest return trip I've done is from Helsinki to Turku, which is
quite
the third biggest city or fourth biggest city nowadays in Finland, and I think the distance is something like 160 kilometers. And it was related with the trip was related to the construction project, so I think I would do it again. We traveled by car, but it was carpool kind of thing, so many of us was traveling with a hybrid car. So I think I'm pretty okay. In my before my present position, I haven't been to Australia, so I'm not a sinner in that sense. But I have indeed visited. I think that Macau is the furthest, longest flight for me.
I was there too.
There too. And I think it was worthwhile because there were many performances and so on, and not too many extra personnel. I think that we both could say that if we haven't been with the trip, then the performance couldn't have taken place. So I think it made sense. Should I keep this closer to my mouth, or maybe farther?
No, you're right. We have a very capable technical team here to fix our shortcomings, yes. That Macau trip, was it just it was with a full company as far as I've understood.
Yep.
And did you have any other performances around that area, or was it just performances in Macau?
Just the performances in Macau, but I think it was roughly a week or maybe a 9-day period. So in retrospective, it would have made sense to maybe visit, because we traveled via Hong Kong, obviously, so why not perform there also? But
And how many people traveling?
This was in 2008, so I can't remember. I would say 60. So a huge company. I will come to this point later in this panel as well.
I expect you to.
Hi, I'm Carolina Ortega, and I'm from Venezuela, but I'm based in Berlin, and I work with Aurora Nova, which is a booking agency, international booking agency. And with them, I also run the Sustainability Lab, which I will show you later. And I'm also an independent artist. And the furthest that I have traveled for work was back home in Venezuela, where I was invited to do a show. But I was already there visiting my family, and I was there in total, I think, for 2.5 months. And yes, I would go home again. Sadly, it's not a possibility. We also have a huge crisis at the moment, so it's not easy. But if it were, definitely. But I think I would also then take some time to work with other collaborators around the area and stay longer. Thanks.
Excellent. So we dealt with the dimension of length. Let's move to dimension of width. How wide-ranging is the effects of your own ecological thinking in your personal practice? And now we've done this kind of introduction round. Please feel free to just grab a mic or even ask for a mic.
I have the mic now. Well, Fern Orchestra does every performance with an ecological mindset. We have decided, we have own rules how to make performances. For example, in performance called Mareld, which was premiered in 2020 in Turku City Theatre, we decided not to put the dimmers on at all. We didn't use them because the dimmers take also electricity even though you don't use them. And the only electrical light source was this one video projector, and then there was this bioluminescence algae that was this bio light. And also I think that the mindset is, well, mainly in Finland, if you think that we are a small country, but the amount of the performances for one show is quite low. People do these performances and then they show it like 4 or 5 times, and then they do another one. So we have tried to make so that the most ecological performance is what you show often. So now on we have had 26 performances in Finland with that. With
the same piece.
With the same piece.
So
yes.
you're aiming for long production runs,
well,
kind of long lifespan for.
Yeah, long lifespan. And then we also give, because we are freelancers, so we have to get all the funding before to get the salary. So then we don't really need the ticket sales anymore, because we are not a company even. We are just a group of people doing performances. So last year we gave over 10,000 euros to preserve forest in Finland. And also that the audience can decide what kind of ticket they would like to purchase. That if you are poor, you can buy it for 10 euros. And if you feel lucky in that way, so you can buy the expensive ticket for 69 euros, I think it was. So in that way, we can also have the audience with this to think about the carbon budget. What is so I think that our carbon budget is on a plus side, I think.
So we're talking about ecological sustainability and social sustainability as well, quite strongly there.
Yes, because they are tangled.
I can chip in a little bit. We at Aurora Nova, as a touring agency, for example, are now putting into practice this idea that when we have a presenter interested in a particular show, we are exploring then a longer tour. So every show that has that comes with an interest from a presenter, we try to get as many representations in the same venue as possible. We are also trying to increase the handprint by offering Q&As or workshops if the artist is able to offer workshops. And then furthermore, we are trying to get bookings around the area, geographical area where this original interest is, so that the artist can potentially have a longer run that is doable by land. And of course, when all of it is doable by land, then this is great. We do have a couple of companies that are based in Australia, and then when they are coming to Europe, then our aim is to get them a land tour that is as long as possible, so that the handprint is increased as much as possible in considerations with the carbon dioxide that is emitted.
And us here in Western Siberia are notoriously hard to reach by land. So certain challenges touring Australian companies here.
Quite obviously, the dance house it's a receiving house, so we don't ourselves tour that much. So it would be pretty easy for me to say that actually we are not, our carbon footprint is quite small, but then the secondary footprint is a totally different thing, because obviously because we exist, and it's in our strategy to be also international dance house, not just for Finnish, maybe mainly for Finnish dance field, but also an international house. We kind of, I don't want to say that we have to, but let's say that we want to. It's within our strategy and existence to be an international house, so obviously people have to travel. And like you said, halfway to Siberia, it's like even the track width is different to Europe, the rest of the Europe. So it's tempting to fly, especially if you come from, say, Australia. And we don't want to rule out companies who come from the other side of the world, because obviously it would be sustainable from the sustainability point of view. It would make sense, but otherwise not at all. Our budget, in a way, provides us a solution for this, because we can't afford to have too many international visitors. But we try to find at least the cargo comes mostly by land, so we don't need to use flight cargo. We would like to pick performances that either are not technically or technologically really heavy, or possibly that we can performances that could be implemented by using our own equipment, for example, and maybe the local rental and using the local technical staff it's obviously important. That's what we do. But I think we can't avoid traveling, but when we consider traveling, it's also a commuting kind of thing. Or is it called commuting when someone comes to Tanssintalo to see a performance, even if they are not flying? But Finland is a big country. Even the locals from the metropolitan area, many people, they might live like 50 kilometers away, some farther away, and they quite often they take their own car and drive here. And so I don't know a way around it necessarily, but we have. I think that when it was the right decision to build Tanssintalo in the spot it is, because it's easily reachable by tube. It's easy to travel by train to Helsinki, and then it's only a couple of minutes tube trip from there. So we try to encourage people to use public transport and bicycle and walk, and it's because still at least we hope that the amount of audience members is far greater than performers. So even if they wouldn't need to fly, it's like the carbon footprint is kind of huge.
I'll chip in at this bit just a little bit, because Cirko is one of the programming partners of Dance House Helsinki. And the first company that we are bringing is from France, comes with a massive truck with 3 trampolines and needs a forklift to unload. So I'm straight away, pissing on your parade about trying to do it with your own equipment. Especially for the circus shows that we are doing for this kind of large-scale venue, there quite often is a lot of cargo. And the next 2 companies that we are bringing over are from Australia, but they were in Europe already. So these are considerations for a venue. I'm making visible the secondary carbon footprints of a guest, basically a receiving venue.
Yes. I think I would like to add that I think this is a deeply strategic question. So in the end, if we wanted to be like purely sustainable, we should deny our very existence. Don't get me wrong, I'm absolutely for being sustainable, and we are spending a lot of effort to trying to be that. But at the same time, if we would want to curate our program solely on the basis of sustainability, we could do that. But it's a great strategic decision, and definitely it's because I don't feel that I'm in my present position, for example, couldn't do that kind of a decision, and I wouldn't even think that it would be sensible. But I think this is one of the core points of what we are discussing now. Get rid of the truck.
Yeah, from presenter's perspective, we would love to bring domestic large-scale pieces to your venue as well. That's another infrastructure, ecological and economical sustainability question. Ecological and economical sustainability question that Finnish companies don't have enough money to create work on that scale. But that's a different question. So, Bia, go ahead.
Me, yes, I'm short. So we are quite small company. We have very restricted resources, and we don't have possibility to be careless of what we buy or what we rent. So with each production, we consider with the designers, what do we buy, what do we rent? If we buy something and we don't perform the piece anymore, can we sell it forwards? So this is, or then if the designer, for example, designs something that he or she can then use as part of their installation at the later stage in some other context, so that we have been thinking and we have already worked that way. I would put pressure on the bigger companies and collaborators. As a small maker, it's sometimes tricky to have many bookings if you travel, for example, to Hong Kong as a artist, to then make those create many shows in that area. It's a bit tricky. So having an agency is really great for that. But that is lovely. That once you travel, there are more shows. The art also matures itself when you perform more in a short time span. So those are the thoughts that this question brought.
Could you open up a little bit the larger companies' commissioning policy that you bumped into? When you are creating a commission piece for a company, who has the rights and what happens to all of the material that is created and bought for that particular piece?
I was going to answer it later, but let's go for it now. So when I was invited to this discussion, I actually realized that when I make the contract, let's say for example with Finnish National Ballet or Skånes Dance Theatre, where we will create next autumn, already at that stage I want to go through what happens to the production after. How many years do they have the rights for the piece? And then what do they do with all the material, the costumes, the set after? For example, let's say in 5 years, when that production is not anymore part of their program, what happens to it? Because I have heard that in some places the materials just get purely destroyed. So there are dozens of costumes with wonderful architecture in them and incredible amount of hours of work that have been put into the process. So I want to ask that can I buy part of them, for example, a few costumes, and that they will inform me before they do that. So that is something that I want to do in the future. And next autumn, when we go to Skånes, I already have it in the contract that I will consider bringing that production to Finland, and maybe I can rent the costumes and the set, or we can buy it for ourselves. So then it's not anymore when the piece has toured, it's not anymore there. They have given the rights to us. So those are things that I need to be awake or realize already in the start point and go through that. What happens to the art after the rights? How you say oikeudet? Yeah, the rights.
The rights, expire.
Yeah, so usually I try to keep the rights really short. Let's say 2 years or 3 years. And then after that, I have also the possibility to take the production to our repertoire here in Helsinki.
Okay, on I go. So I suppose Sadler as well as we are a venue, so we receive companies, but we also produce work and we tour work. During the pandemic, I think probably most of you are aware that the Green Book, the Theatre Green Book, came about. And when it comes to our productions, we're starting to implement that, and that's very helpful. As Johanna was saying, we try to with props, with costumes, with set, we have storage space that we rent, and we try to reuse those, including, of course, the dance floors that we have. We reuse them for as many productions, and the ones on the main house as well, and the other houses. And then when we can't use them anymore, we give them away to community groups, to whoever needs them, basically. Every company that comes to Sadler's receives a green rider before they come, so they know how, what they're supposed to do, or, from the drinkable water that they can't, that they should use a reusable bottle, to lights in the dressing rooms, everything. So that's been very helpful. But as you're saying, Petri, it's, how far do we go? Because I suppose dance is an international art form in all its possibilities, and it is really hard at the moment, isn't it? When you think also we're back from the pandemic and we want to give artists work, and that is touring. So we were all the time really conflicted on how to, what was the best thing to do at every stage of the production and touring. We now have, of course, from the beginning, I was talking to Adam Carre, who's our head of production at Sadler's, and from the beginning there is a conversation with artists about, making that production as sustainable as possible. And so there is a conversation with the designers involved in that production as well. So if there are materials that we can't, for example, recycle, we'll reuse them some other way after that production is finished. So that I suppose it's about having sustainability as an everyday thing, part of your life, rather than something that you add on. And I think that we're all on the same boat, I suppose, aren't we?
Yes, absolutely. And just like as you, I shouldn't admit this, but I'm got to the phase in my life that I actually do believe in processes nowadays, which I used to hate in organizational life, and also the power of processes connected with the strategy is in a way that if we cannot make the strategic decision or don't want to make the decision, for example, to not have international guests, which we don't want to use, but possibly by making the strategic decision that we want to consider sustainability in all our decision making and create processes, like you said, that are sustainable and save the environment. For example, I might have I made some notes before, and now I noticed that maybe I have mixed width and depth. But anyway. Why did I say it aloud, or did I just think that? I don't know. Anyway, for example, I would like to mention a couple of these tools and processes that we are actually doing, because I'm continuing that parade now. So in Finland it might be pretty similar to your to the Green Book, that we have a thing called Eco-Kompassi, which is like Eco-Compass.
Eco-Compass.
Yeah. And which is basically I think it's a company actually. We do have a deal with them, but it's a limited responsibility company. And they provide management tools for environmentally sustainable management leadership, which is really good, because it's especially for smallish or mid-sized organizations that, like we are, probably we don't necessarily have the time or even the competence to do and design everything ourselves. So it helps a lot to have like some kind of be it Green Book or Eco Compass. And then I guess this is also something like copied from, at least from Britain, that there's a project called Matala Hiiliteatteri, low carbon theater. This is a Finnish language course as well, as you noticed. And the idea is to recycle things, and like also Johanna mentioned, that quite often we tend to use stuff only once and then recycle it and kind of not think about it. And then this low carbon theater project run by Taito, theater company Taito, small advertisement, nothing to do with Tanssintalo, and they try to do just that. That anyone who want to play with them, let's say that after a production is demolished, they come and collect everything, all the leftovers, and then they recycle those to the other theaters, make good list, like basically a web shop of used theater, like set design pieces and so on. And then
that is their business model.
Yes, and I think it's really great. I would hope. I also want to like kind of pitch it now, because like it's such a good idea, because that's something that not us and not even the big houses are able to do by themselves.
And that is an operation model that could be copied elsewhere. I mean, this is Finland specific. So take the idea, do it in your own country. How many of you are familiar with the Theatre Green Book? Yeah, okay. All of these resources that we are mentioning, we will gather all the links. And all the links will be available in the recording of this talk. Yeah, so you don't need to be doing your Googling as we speak. We'll get the links to you. Right. Let's. We kind of crossed over to the depth already. So, riffing off the earlier ones. So, what's the most extreme act you have done to further ecological sustainability?
That's a tough question. I suppose I didn't go to New Zealand. I gave you my answer to this one. I'll pass it on. Yes, I mean, I think also, like Carolina, I'm from Brazil. And if it depended on me, I'd go to Brazil every year. I'd go home every year. I go every 4 years. So personally, it's a big sacrifice for me. Might sound like nothing, but also it helps the budget because it's really expensive to go there. But it's a big sacrifice in terms of work. It's a sacrifice I think that we'd like to do, but we haven't done yet. So, for example, taking shows to Australia, you have a co-producer, a big festival co-producing your show, and then they tell you that you can't go anywhere else in Australia for at least 6 months. That's outrageous. I think these days it should not be on. I mean, we've just done a production with one of those big festivals, and then had a conversation and thinking, next time, should we put our foot down and really say, because we tried, we said, look, this is a production with 50 people on the road, and you're telling us that we can't take it anywhere else in Australia.
So is the reasoning behind it that the audiences of Perth Festival and Sydney Festival are kind of conflicting, that they're competing
I won't
from the same
I won't
audience?
name the festivals, but it's, yes,
I'm just giving the scale of it.
It's not those ones, but yes, absolutely. It is the fact that they say they get their funding based on the number of tourists as well that come into that region for that festival. And so that is a hard one. And as you're saying, I mean, trying to get tours together, deviating a bit here. And a lot of the time, you know, even in France, they say, well, no, if you perform with us, you can't perform in the next city for 6 months, or you can't. And it's like, how is that ever going to work? So I think we need to somehow come up with a lobby their lobbies these
So
presenters around the world, because it's not sustainable.
Yeah, I
So
think the
exclusivity.
exclusivity clause is one big enemy of sustainability, and you said exactly one of the reasons why. So if you're traveling with a number of performers and then those performers cannot go anywhere else, especially if they have to go to Australia, this is terrible because you don't have the possibility to increase your handprint for the carbon footprint that you're already creating, but there is something else. The carbon footprint of the audiences traveling is also gigantic, and actually venues measure this, and it has huge consequences. I mean, this is necessarily not your footprint perhaps to consider, but the venues, but actually in total you know that this footprint will be created. And there is a lot of studies. I think Julie's Bicycle's website offers quite a lot of studies where you can see the impact of audiences traveling far away to go to a particular festival, when actually this festival could just collaborate. And when it comes to programming international work, one of the big friends of sustainability is that festivals collaborate with each other to bring work to a particular place. And this is also more sustainable for the artists because they get a longer tour and more audiences get to see these shows. So I think we have to definitely lobby against exclusivity clause as a whole from the artist perspective, but also agencies and venues also should accept that this is no longer acceptable, actually.
Dear programmers, do take notes. More on that topic. Or
So what have I
yes, the barricades. What is the most extreme acts you have done in order to further ecological sustainability?
Yeah, I was thinking when you mentioned like sacrifice and doing this, that we are talking a quite negative way of these things, that we do have to sacrifice our lives or whatever, our art for something. We should maybe think this another way, that what we can do for sustainability, not what we have to sacrifice. So this is also like way of thinking. And well, we are such a small group that maybe our choices are not so big, but well, as a lighting designer, it's a really big decision not to use dimmers at all or any lighting equipment than one. But it is possible to do it, and also I think that in the same way that we design shows, you design it for a certain area, or the stage is like this width and depth. In the same way, we could just decide that this is the carbon budget for this show. It's nothing else than just to decide it, and then keep it going like that. It's the same way that when the premiere is coming and you look at your money, that oh no, there's not so much left anymore, that what do we have to take away to get how do we do it this now? So in the same way, I think it's possible to think that okay, so this is not very sustainability way to do it, so how do we do it? But it has to be done beforehand. It has to be done like it's all about in good designing. And thinking about design as a way to do that impact in a good way as well. So it's no use to do it like a couple of months ahead to when the venue says that hey, you should have like this and this. It's too late then. But maybe this is the whole infrastructure. And if you think about, for example, Finland, that we have trade union that negotiates the collective labor agreements that define general rules. So I think that maybe we should discuss also to have this carbon budget in this as well, since we are already talking about how to what do we do when it's like hot now? So so we have to have like air condition and so on. So in the same way, we should also think that what is the the carbon budget, like beforehand, and to put it in these general rules as well.
So concrete proposal, have an economical budgets and ecological budgets.
Yes.
Already at the stage of production planning.
Yes, and also to remember that what is ecological in Finland might not be ecological in Norway, because the countries are so different. So that's why we can't just use the Green Book, for example, straight here, or because for example, the wood or iron is really different in an ecological way in Finland or in Norway. So that's why it should be done in a state way, like in every country.
I agree. I think that the detailed, good quality analysis of what actually does help save the environment or lessen the carbon footprint or whatever is very important, because obviously ideology is important driver as well, but quite often I have, let's say that I hear people to my taste to be maybe emphasize the ideology part a bit too much, consider the analysis. So I'm totally with you.
So I'm all for practical solutions. Yeah. So let's use that a little bridge to the last theme, the fourth dimension. Now we've gone to length, we've gone to width, we've gone to depth. Let's look forward into time. How do you see ecologically more sustainable operation models changing your job or the performing arts field in general? What do we need to do? What is going to happen? What will have to happen in the future?
Well, this is, if I start, I think I will answer how it will maybe change my work as an artist. I was just, when I walked here, I got a phone call from the artist, and she said she cannot attend a project because she doesn't want to travel that much and be so many weeks away from home. And she lives outside Helsinki, further in Finland. And then I was massively disappointed. Then I walked up the stairs and I was like, well, how if we work remotely? We will use the internet, and that's something that will then use power and so on. But I think I'm ready to test it, and then what happens is that she doesn't need to travel that much. She can work independently partly, and then we meet either at her hometown up north, or then she will come once or twice here. I wasn't a big fan of remote working earlier, but I wanna give space to it. I wanna give the trust that we could maybe make it work. So this would be a big, not a sacrifice, but a change in how we plan the process if most of us are here in Helsinki and a couple of people would be working remotely with us. And this is something I cannot only decide on my own. It's the visual designer, sound designer, the whole team needs to agree that can everybody do their work if one is somewhere else behind the screen or attending in some other way.
Yes. I want to show you something, which is this project that we worked on 2020 at the beginning of the pandemic. And it was basically based on our anxiety as an agency and being very aware of the carbon footprint that we were generating while booking tours. And this is a tool to help people look at their work and very specifically touring in a more sustainable way. And it's still in development. There will still be newer resources and perspectives. But at the moment, the Sustainability Lab is a tool for sustainability while on tour. And as you will see, and I will do this very briefly, there is an introduction that helps you understand how you would use this tool. And in it, there is a link to the Julie's Bicycle Carbon Calculator, which we recommend. However, as you have pointed out already, the values of the carbon calculators are very specific geographically. And there are already versions of the Julie's Bicycle Calculator in Canada, in Germany. I believe there are some adaptations somewhere in perhaps Denmark and other countries. But you might have a very good carbon calculator, which is local to you. The reason we recommend the Julie's Bicycle is because it's very, very complete. And we give you a little idea of how you can plan for your sustainability in the future. And we recommend measuring your carbon footprint so that you can understand where your issues are as a venue or as an artist or as a festival. And then the toolbox will hopefully give you some recommendations. This toolbox is based after reviewing many, many pieces of research that are available for everyone. It's just that each of them is around 300 pages. And these recommendations are there to help you get some easy, straightforward answers to some of your questions of where do I get started. Very briefly, I will show you the toolbox. And is a little link here where you go, hey, I am an artist, and what should I do? And then you come and you click on artist. Oh, sorry. You would click on artist if you knew how to use a computer. Or but when you have a computer that you know how to use, you would click on it. Oh yeah, it's worked now, I think, yes. You would click on one of the, whether you're an artist or a presenter, or a tour booker or a festival, and then you have recommendations that are high communication value, low cost, and so forth, and then the recommendations are listed by category. And this would help you make an action plan. We recommend you make an action plan that works for you and for your operation. And let me see if I can continue to use this website. Yes. We also offer a library, and here you can see a lot of the resources. Okay, I'm sorry, I do know how to use a computer. You can see some of the resources that we have used, and it's a list of resources that are available for free. One of them is the Theatre Green Book, and this is a Bible with fantastic information, both explained at length but also summarized. And you should be aware that this was created in the UK, and there are some values that might not apply to you. However, the thinking, the structure, and the detail of the work is very, very useful, and I still recommend you look at it. And also is in 4 parts: buildings, touring, productions, and something else that I forget, but there's 4 books. And they are separated depending on what you are doing, what your operation is. You have a link to the Julie's Bicycle website. We also have a technical, a sample tech rider, green tech rider, that you can use, have a look at, and adapt for yourself so that you don't have to start from the beginning. And yeah, so you have a bunch of resources here. Hopefully you will find them very, very useful. And last but not least, there is a little section called Kino, which is cinema in German. And we did a series of webinars on sustainability in the performing arts from the perspectives of presenters, festivals, and creators. And you can still watch them. So if you need some inspiration, they're there for you. And just to close about the future, what we want to see is more collaboration between presenters and more networks built so that we can continue to tour in a more sustainable way, so that artists have more work and end the exclusivity clause.
Thank you, Carolina. And because as a tour booker, as an agent, your entire business model relies on touring. So it's quite important to make it sustainable as well. So if you take one website address, write that down, the Sustainability Lab, because pretty much everything else that we've been talking about is already there. Carolina's team has been so kind that they pre-digested all those hundreds of pages of reports already. It's all there, use it. Petteri, you look like you want to say something about this topic.
Obviously, but I'm also looking at the time at the same time. But
Yeah,
okay, now that
I'd like to ask them to say things as well.
now that you asked, because I didn't get to answer, I have a geeky engineering answer to the previous question, which is what's the most extreme act. This is a quick one. My geeky engineering answer is that I removed all the dimmers and conventional lights from the dance house construction project designs, and so we have no dimmers whatsoever. We only have LED based fixtures, which some designers don't like, but some do, because it's sustainable. It's a fraction of the amount of electric power that they use. So geeky, but still important. Should I give a quick answer to this question as well, or should I just shut up?
I'll give you a little answer to this. Good and bad points about that. Because most touring productions are still designed with dimmers and halogen lights in mind. So the production that we are bringing to Dance House Helsinki spends one more day in the venue reprogramming the entire show because of that particular decision. So swings and roundabouts.
Yeah, it's production-wise, it's obviously not obviously, but it's not always a good idea. But from the sustainability point of view, it is. Also because if people spend an extra day at the dance house, like making lighting cues, it's quite energy efficient, especially with LED lights. And obviously, it's obviously quite the downside is because we are going through the change in here. Some companies complain that they want to use their own light, or they want to use traditional fixtures, and we try to say no. And quite often, actually, when they overcome the resistance to use the modern technology, in the end they are really happy, which makes me glad.
Excellent. On that particular bombshell, dear audience, what are the questions or comments burning your mind right now?
Hello, my name is Johanna. I'm the artistic director of Scottish Dance Theatre in Scotland. So we are a repertory touring dance company. So a lot of what's been said really resonates with where we're at. All of those strategies that we're trying to work out that sort of seem to make up the sum of them, some sort of ecological practice. But the question that it's burning in my mind is around deeply decolonizing the conversation and our practice in terms of, how far should we go? And so I suppose my response to that is, who's missing in this conversation? Is it up to us to decide how far should we go? If the people who are feeling the effects of what we do are, let's say, in the global south, shouldn't they be the ones having a say on how far do we need to go, and how do we make that happen? When we tour internationally, we very often extract financial resources from communities. We're making a cultural exchange, but to what extent is that valuable, and how it is valuable for the communities and places that receive us? I'm just trying to think, how do we decenter ourselves from the conversation that we're having? Because otherwise I feel the pace of the conversation might not be quick enough to do the deep changes that it feels like are needed. So yes, I'm trying to sort of like catch up in the way that you're all doing, but I'm asking myself, is that quick enough? And is it anyway up to me to decide that?
do you have a suggestion, or does anybody else have a suggestion? Because those are pertinent questions about social sustainability on a global scale.
I would like to chip in a little bit. It's very true, and I think this is very important, and I think this became quite an open conversation on the internet when there was a letter to Jerome Bell from Gabino Lázaro from Lagartijas Tiradas al Sol in response to his "I don't fly anymore." And this was, I think this is still available on the internet, but from the perspective of a Mexican theater and performance maker who relies entirely on touring in Europe. The idea that we are now expecting, and that a lot of programmers are going no flights, is very, very hurtful for the artists that are in the global south. And I think we really need to think about that, and also we need to think about, and this is also why the exclusivity clause ending is important, because then perhaps you can think about who are the artists that you need to bring into your venue, not only for cultural purposes, but also for the purposes of the sustainability of these artists continuing to work in their home countries. But how do you do that in a way that is still sustainable? And it doesn't mean that they are not coming from Mexico to your venue. It just means that you might need to collaborate with a lot of venues around you so that they get, actually for them, fantastic. They get a nationwide tour of the UK, perhaps then you're collaborating with other people in Europe and they get a 6 months tour in Europe. And I think for me, this is one of the ways that we can think about this, to increase this collaboration so that we continue not just to support the sustainability of these artists, but also to understand that sustainability is also diversity, and it's also important that we are bringing people in this conversation. But collaboration is very, very key.
Yes, to me, it's. I think it's quite obviously. Again, it's a value-based question, obviously. But should it be whose values should it be based on? Like who? Because I think there's no objective, definitive answer to your question, because it's deeply subjective, and it's a very good question, and I don't have the answer for you. But like who has the right to define the values that we base our decision making on?
And who should we go and ask? Yeah. So those are questions that we can carry on asking. And I'd imagine that we will generate various different possible answers.
I would like to add that I think that when you mentioned that how to decentralize ourselves, is that we really should not even think who can make the decisions. We should only think like not only humans, but global wise, like love between species. And then when you take yourself away from the center, then there's that you think about just species, different species, it becomes clearer. That's the way I think. I don't envy anyone doing things what they are doing, because I think that love between species is a bridge to the next life, if I can be this poetic. So maybe this is something that we should just consider us, not to think about who has the abilities, but how can you and me love one another through species?
So decentralizing, like decolonizing is one thing, but dehumanizing sounds a little bit kind of dodgy, but yeah. So we started to talk about posthumanism as well, so decentralizing from the human species as well. More questions or comments? We have about 2 minutes left. Oops. Okay, I have a question. Where did you grow the algae?
In a laboratory in Åbo Academy University.
was the algae happy there?
Well, this is a question that have been answered quite a lot. That are we like somehow using them? But I am thinking that they are using us. This one-celled algae has already made its entrance in Lux Helsinki, which is the biggest art festival in Finland with 500,000 viewers. And it has made us to work like several months to do these all kind of different installations and performances and so on. So I'm starting to think that who is using who. And I think this small algae that you can't even see with your bare eye, but you can see the light that it emits, that it has really had a big impact on my life and my colleagues' life as well. And somehow we have started to be like this, that the algae is taking over the world. And this is like this is also like cooperating between species. And you learn things. We have learned one another. Like they react when I laugh. I do laugh often. So, and of course when the scientists, when they study the algae in the laboratory, they don't listen to it. We do. We have studied it and we have shaken it like 8 hours and noticed that, oh, it will glow more after 8 hours. No one has like time to do that in a laboratory if you are a scientist. So I think that this science and art collaboration has made us also aware of things in another way. And also this marine biologist that is in our collective, he has done these studies now that the idea of the study has come from me. That what if is this question that I'm always asking. But yeah, of course they can't speak, but I think that that they are the pioneers of algae community. Making in their entrance into the art world.
On that note, we are 2 minutes over, so keep asking what if. Try to find all those new possible answers and listen to your inner algae. Thank you very much, everyone. Shine on, you crazy diamonds.